Thank you very much for joining us tonight. It is very exciting to have the opportunity to discuss with you all. My name is Jimena. I am a member of Le Voice and Bread and Roses. I'm also a founder of Pan y Rosas Mexico, the Bread and Roses branch in Mexico, and Le Voice is part of the Trotskys fraction. As you know, last Saturday we had the pleasure of holding an event with Miriam Bregman, a socialist congresswoman from Argentina who is part of the Left and Workers Front, which is an electoral coalition made up of 4 Trotskyist parties in Argentina. Many thanks to the cameras from Hormiguero, Central Ohio, and Denver Socialists for endorsing the event with us. It was really exciting to collaborate. And I wanted to start by saying that I think that for all of us who were there, the example of the feed in Argentina and everything that Miriam said, it helped us to reflect on 2 very relevant questions for the US context, I think. On the one hand, on the importance of class independence, and on the other hand, the practical possibility of having electoral politics anchored in socialist principles that, rather than capitulating to the capitalist parties, helps build socialist organization and class struggle. And I think the recent congressional vote against the railroad strike, for its part, has also been revealing about what socialists should not do in the Congress. But before going to that discussion, before going there, I wanted to dwell on another question, because I think the congressional vote also expresses a tendency that has been expressed since the pandemic. And that is that the working class, or even before the pandemic, the working class, always forgotten by the media and Republicans and Democrats, until it comes to winning elections or crushing strikes, is today at the center of national politics. It was at the center of the Sanders and Trump campaigns in 2016. It was at the center of headlines during the pandemic, when millions of essential workers who were not quarantined kept the economy afloat at the expense of their lives. I think we still remember the iconic photo of Chris Smalls protesting with Amazon workers outside the JFK warehouse on Staten Island, demanding PPE for the workers in February 2020. The essential workers were called heroes, applauded by the people and also by the mainstream media. Joe Biden won the last election by portraying himself as the union's best friend. Since last October, the media has had to report steady process of working class recomposition with the wave of unionization. The railroad strike was a strategic issue for the Biden administration. I think that's very important for us to have this discussion, to understand first having this conversation. Why? So the question is why? Why are the bourgeois parties and the media giving so much attention to the working class? Why was it so important to crush this strike? On the one hand, because, as we know, the capitalists are afraid of losing profits and disrupting the economy. And the railroads in this country move a very significant percent of the GDP. They do not want to affect the supply chains hit by the economic crisis, nor affect the immense profits of the capitalist. On the other hand, because the pandemic unveiled an indisputable truth, the capitalist economy and the profits made by the capitalists come from the wage labor of millions of multiracial and multigender workers in logistics, transportation, industry, schools, restaurants, cafeterias, hospitals, ports. And this has always been the case, for sure, but now the working class is more aware of it, and so is the population. That is why there was so much support for a railroad strike, the potential railroad strike, and why about 65% of the population in the United States approves the creation of unions. And that is within the labor movement, numbed by decades of austerity, neoliberal austerity, and controlled by the union bureaucracy, emerged a new generation of young labor activists, a generation U for union, and it's young people ready to organize in the workplaces to fight for bread and butter demands and also against oppression. Crushing the railroad strike was Biden's job because the Democratic Party, as we know, and the Republican Party work for the capitalist, not for the working class, not for the social movements. The most tragic thing about this vote is not that Biden betrayed the working class. Biden did not betray the working class. Biden has never in any way been a friend of working people. The most tragic thing is that he had the approval of a sector of representatives who call themselves socialist, of the DSA, the largest organization, the largest so-called socialist organization in the country, that has many young people today organizing in the workplaces. So for us, the example of Miriam Bregman and the defeat in Argentina and the lessons we draw from this vote are relevant because we believe that we need an independent working class party with a truly socialist strategy in the United States. And when we say a truly socialist strategy, what we mean is that we need a party of the class struggle and for the class struggle that participates in the Congress, not to negotiate maneuvers with the Democratic establishment, always voting the lesser evil that ends up being a greater evil because it betrays the trust that broader sectors of the working class in America still have in the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. And we have the opportunity, I think, to break that idea, breaking the idea that these people inside a capitalist party is people that we should trust or the working class should trust. So from our perspective as revolutionary socialists, we don't believe that the capitalist state can be reformed to act in favor of the working class. Because along with Marx, we believe that the executive of the modern state is nothing but a committee of managing the common affairs of the whole bourgeoisie. And that's exactly why Biden, along with the majority of Republicans, crushed the labor strike. And that's why a capitalist party like the Democrats will always serve capital and not workers. So we think it's very important for us to draw conclusions and to start discussing among us that the idea that among us and with broader sectors of the labor movement, broader sectors of the youth in this country that are becoming political, increasingly political and radicalized by the crisis, by the pandemic, by the Black Lives Matter movement, by the new wave of unionization, we need to start discussing the necessity, the need to build a party whose members of Congress are accountable to its rank and file and the working class, not to the Democratic Party establishment and the bosses, Warren Buffett and the capitalist. We believe that is a great opportunity for us to put forward the idea that we need a party focused on developing and encouraging class struggle, not shutting it down. A party to organize in our workplaces and with worker and oppressed representatives in Congress fighting for our interests, not the interest of the bosses. For us, a new working class party with a socialist strategy in this country would have to fight also the right wing, Trump and the Republicans that cynically are talking in the name of the working class right now, because we know neither the Democrats nor the Republicans are friends of the working class. And we believe that we have a great opportunity to put forward the idea that we need a working class party to organize in our workplaces for unions, of course, for democratic unions, for self-organization, using the methods of the working class, the radical methods of the working class, like the pickets and strikes, and build a new combative labor movement that defies all the anti-strike and anti-union laws of the United States, which means for us to break the anti-labor legislation in this country. We also feel that it's a fantastic, extraordinary opportunity for us to put forward the idea that the party we need has to rebuild, reshape along these new labor activists the way the labor movement is organized, is currently organizing, controlled by the union bureaucracy and controlled by the Democratic Party. And of course, at the same time, since the most progressive aspect of this new labor movement is the fact that these activists are aware that they are working class, but at the same time they are oppressed, we need a working class party to fight racial oppression, sexism, bigotry with the methods of the working class. For example, the strike. We also believe that this discontent with the Democratic Party and its progressive wing has been built up within the last years. Not only, like, of course, this was a huge betrayal, but since the representatives also endorsed by the DSA has voted in favor, for example, of giving the military, in favor of the military budget to Israel, for example, just to mention an example. So for us, it's a very, very extraordinary moment to put forward the idea of anti-imperialism, that we need a party to fight imperialism. Republicans and Democrats are enemies of our brothers and sisters from Palestine to Mexico and elsewhere. So for us, guys, and we wanted to open this conversation with you, but not only, of course, the entire socialist left has to start discussing this perspective. The DSA members that are discontent with what happened in Congress, comrades from Tempest, the Denver Socialists, the socialist collectives throughout the country, the multiple socialist collectives throughout the country, the Black Lives Matter organizations. But not only, I feel that we have the responsibility as socialists to try to gain influence with this idea, trying to radicalize the experience that broader sectors of the masses are doing with the Biden government, working class people, trying to spread out the word and put forward this idea that it might be weak if a single organization, even a small collective or the voice, or we as like single organizations put forward this idea, we're still weak, but it will get way more outreach is if the far left in this country, if the revolutionary socialist left in this country put together this kind of message. I think we have the opportunity to help to elevate the consciousness of the youth and of this working class movement, emergent working class movement that we are witnessing. So for us, guys, it is a very good moment to spread the word. We think the time is now, and we wanted to open this conversation with you guys and everyone that is willing to listen this message, and to have as many initiatives as possible to put together these ideas that we think are very vital in the US. It is time for the left to break with the idea that the Democratic Party is a party that could be a reform or could be pushed in favor of the working class. And we have, I think, the opportunity to send this message strongly. So yeah, that would be it from my part. Thank you very much.
Yeah, as Jimena already kind of like laid out, we had that really great meeting on Saturday that we were able to co-sponsor with Left Voice, featuring Miriam Bregman from Argentina, socialist congressperson. And it was really great. But we were kind of, talking about the meeting, and we wanted to kind of continue the conversation and kind of like get as many people in the same room to continue this like very necessary conversation on electoral strategy. As kind of exemplified from our Argentinian comrades, but then also adopting to the American context. They're different what principles hold true, that kind of thing. So that's kind of what we're doing here. We want to discuss sorry, let me read my notes. In that meeting, we discussed an electoral strategy based on socialism from below, that adheres to the tactics of a revolutionary Marxist program, not just as an ideal, but what strategy can be most successful, what strategy has proven most successful to win workers' power. Some key characteristics are independence of the capitalist classes, and an orientation towards the workers in the union and not just union bureaucracy. Almost as if on cue, it's almost kind of funny, but maybe not funny, like interesting or something. Almost as if on cue, progressive Democrats voted the week before that meeting to kill the contract negotiations between rail workers and their bosses, and impose a contract that is pathetic compared to the central demands of the workers, and not even crafted by the workers themselves. This is the latest chapter in the heinous chapter in the treacherous story of Democrats demonstrating their true nature. A party run by the capitalists that intervenes for the capitalists on their behalf. It's almost laughable, if it wasn't so horrendous, that workers asked for 15 6 days a year and were given one. Like, it's just kind of ridiculous, like how paltry that is. It's like next there's gonna be offering like half a day of sick leave. Like, it couldn't get any more kind of pathetic. We desperately need a strategy around elections that keeps the good name of socialists out of the mouths of DSA electeds. As someone said the other day, this isn't even the FDR reformism of the New Deal that stood up capitalism following the Great Depression. This is reformism without any of the reforms. How on earth can one day of sick leave year be even considered a reform? It's insane to think this kind of paternalistic rhetoric is anything but insulting to working people everywhere, and especially so to the rail workers fighting for better working conditions. The likes of AOC and Jamal Bowman and anyone else that DSA gets elected under the iron fist of the Democratic Party are part of the problem, not a solution to it. And I'm just going to talk about a couple like points on electoral strategy that I think are relevant to today, and I think I'd like to discuss with everybody else. Shoot, hold on, I just disappeared my document. Let me grab it really quick. There we go. Sorry. Yeah, just a few points on that. The first one is that the DSA is a necessary function of the capitalist state. It's not a solution to this problem, it's part of this problem. Workers must be duped into believing that the electoral system, under its current composition, can provide material improvements to workers' lives. Without the DSA and other leftist organizations, the bourgeois state's days would be numbered. I don't think AOC is fooling a majority of the workers with the 1 day of sick leave. Being principally against voting for Democrats doesn't equate to just hating voting or being sectarian. Revolutionary socialism isn't purely abstentionist. It's just that there isn't ever a viable candidate to vote for. We should never be forced into a vote for an imperialist, not as a moral position, but as a person of correct tactics. I can't believe I have to say that. I can't believe I have to say that. That like you shouldn't have to vote for an imperialist. It feels self-evident. But yeah, I stand strongly on that one, on that point. We need to understand class dynamics correctly. The national DSA's support for federal Democrats is no different than local DSA's support for local Democrats. A bourgeois party in Washington is the same as a bourgeois party in Denver or Seattle or anywhere. Capitalist interests are capitalist interests. Those interests don't change depending on the location. It's not an issue of scale, it's an issue of class warfare, workers on one side and the capitalists on the other. The real harm of this vote isn't the material detriment to railroad workers. The real harm is the symbolism. What is the message this vote sends to radicalizing workers? What is the message to newly unionizing DSA members at Starbucks? The message is loud and clear. Socialists that are elected to power won't put up a fight, but you have to vote for them anyways. We wonder why voter turnout is so low, yet we continue to disillusion our voters with these kind of politicians. We absolutely need, and then I'll kind of close this, we absolutely need a party of our own, a party for the workers, by the workers, to advocate for the needs of the masses. All of our energy and organizing should be to build this party as the first step of electoral strategy. We hope that those in this meeting are inspired by the necessity to build this party and join in on that project.